All right, everybody, good morning or good afternoon, as the case may be. It is 11 o'clock by my watch in Chicago, so it's time to begin. Thank you for attending this PowerCast, Modernizing Business Intelligence in 2022 by Greg Schmidt of Help Systems. This PowerCast is sponsored by Help Systems. My name is Ian Cartwright, and I'm Education Manager for Common, and if you experience any technical issues during the presentation, go ahead and send me a message through chat and I'll address your issue. If you'd like to send a written question to Greg during the presentation, use the Q&A area, and he will answer your questions at the end of the presentation as time permits. Again, presenting today is Greg Schmidt. Greg is a 20-plus year veteran in data, document forms, and process automation, specializing in document automation and business intelligence. He's helped hundreds of companies automate their data and document processes and streamline their cumbersome business processes through strategic technologies and planning. With that, I'm going to hand control over to Greg. Greg, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Just want to make sure. Can you hear me? Oh, good.
We can hear you fine.
Perfect. Yeah, so I just want to take another second, just personally welcome everyone to today's webinar, and I'm glad you could join. And I hope you find today's topic and information helpful as you go on modernizing your business intelligence applications. Again, my name is Greg Schmidt. I'll be the presenter for today's webinar, and today's webinar topic again is modernizing business intelligence in 2022 and beyond. This is a hot topic in the IBM IBI world, and a topic that I deal with personally on a daily basis, because we've been helping a lot of customers and prospects remove outdated programs and queries and create new strategies around how and who can access data inside of their organizations. Making users more self-sufficient and starting to remove some of that burden off of IT by providing IT the tools to deploy usable and insightful data access strategies across the organization. So sort of redefining some of those old strategy processes. So today you will learn how you can start that modernization process and of the business intelligence solution, and start by removing some of those older programs and queries that you have created and are maintaining. And by doing that, always doesn't mean you have to start from scratch. So today you're going to see during the live demonstration and some of the conversation, you don't always have to start from scratch. You can take and import some of those existing queries and SQL statements and import them in seconds with the SQL BI solution. So onto the agenda here. So I'm going to start with an overview today of how the Right BI solution can help you with your digital transformation of data journey. And then I'll be talking about some of the trends that we're seeing on a daily basis with some of our customers and prospects. And then I'm going to move into that main topic for today, modernizing business intelligence in 2022. And when doing this, I'll be talking about some of those gaps that Query for 100 or a custom program may have today that you're facing some of those issues. And then I'll be talking about some of the benefits of modernizing and and removing some of those custom programs and stuff that you have to be able to do those generation processes, or even other solutions that you might be using. Along with that, I'll be talking about towards the end how our SQL BI solution can help you in that modernization journey. And so I'll be doing a live demonstration of our BI solution and how easy it is to access and also import those existing queries into the system. And then we'll finish up with some Q&A at the end of the webinar here. All right, let's get started here. And actually, before I get started into the main content, Ian's already just popped open the poll here for us here. So the poll question here is, what are you using to access your IBM I data today? And there's multiple choices here. So if you're using Query for 100, if you're using SQL, if you're using RPG, if you're a SQL Data Access customer, or if you're a Power BI, using Power BI, or any other ones that you might be using as well.
Last chance to answer the poll. I'll give you one more second. All right, here are the results.
All right, so it looks like a lot of people are using Query for 100 and SQL. There's some RPG programs out there, and it looks like there is some a customer or two out there as well. So cool, awesome. All right. So now, as for what SQL Business Intelligence can help you with, right? So just one slide here to talk about sort of what we can help with. The sole purpose is really to unlock the value of your data using analytics. So organizations can now start to get more valuable information from their data that is structured and analyzable to get them more actionable insights into that data. SQL Business Intelligence enables your business to, in the strategic decision-making process and gives you the tools either for IT or business users to access that data easily when they need it and how they need it. We empower IT and business users by first providing IT the tools to easily translate and deliver lots of different kinds of data sources into clear and actionable stories with an easy to use interface, and making users more self-sufficient in this process by removing time consuming coding and even building of complex data warehouses by IT and different departments. And by doing the beforehand mentioned, this will in turn enable business users to make those quick informed decisions and improve overall performance and health of the organization by being able to look at real-time data when they need it and how they need it. All companies today need to be able to use the data that their business systems collect on a daily basis more efficiently. If the data lives natively on the IBM I on a DB2 database, or as many organizations today may have a mixture of other business platforms that are key to moving their business forward. And being able to take all that data, no matter where it lives, and use it to do deeper business analytics and tell the story with the data. With SQL Business Intelligence, we are helping IT and business users and organizations access and deploy easy to use data interfaces for their complex business data, which will help you in turn your data into actionable insights and drive your business to that next level. Our true goal is to make it as simple as possible for IT and business users in all organizations to access their data they need and when they need that data. In successful businesses today, business intelligence solutions bring together not only the users in an organization, but also key parts of an organization, like business systems and the processes. So the business data that lives on those systems and is also used in those processes and needs to be delivered into to the business users or executives in most cases, even executives, but be able to deliver into formats that they need to be able to do their jobs. And a key term that I always like to bring up is adaptability. So adaptability in the BI world, I think is key to a success factor in a digital transformation of data process. You need to be able to have adaptability or the ability to allow business users to quickly make decisions and solve their own business problems based on the data, no matter where that data lives inside the organization. And having the solution grow and change with your company over time, as those requirements change. And when you start with the data requirements, it's not going to be the same in a couple of years, right? So trust me on the businesses change over time, right? Everybody knows businesses change over time, and you need a solution that is easy to create these views over the data and manage those changes as change comes. So also, being able to have multiple ways to deploy to users inside and outside of an organization is key. All data that organizations collect today is way more valuable to them than what they really think it is. So having a BI solution that allows you to quickly visualize, create, and deploy will bring your company to that next level overnight and break out of some of those growth barriers and challenges you might be facing today, either from the business user side or from the IT side. Now let's move on to some of the trends that we're seeing in the industry. As I talked about already, digital future is here, right? The digital transformation at some form is here to stay in all organizations. It really just depends on how your company chooses to move forward with it and how fast they work it into your company's IT and growth strategy. I'm sure over the past few years, you've been hearing a lot about the term or topic of digital transformation of data, right? It's all over the place, all over the place, just digital transformation itself, and then digital transformation of data. An overarching initiative and trend for 2021 and 2022 of most companies that falls under that digital transformation topic is being able to connect the business users together with all the data they need and in the format they need it in. And doing it in a manner that is also freeing up IT's time and making the users more self-sufficient to what they need access to. And trust me, that statement there, it's not a small task in today's business, right? Not always a small task. Business leaders that are determined to keep up have a lot to consider as they seek solutions to assist them with their digital transformation journey. These technologies can be utilized to modify or replace existing business systems and or processes, cultures, and customer experiences to meet the changing business requirements. It can even help with the security of the business and fight against the act of fraud in some cases. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So in other words, every company's digital transformation journey is a little bit unique to their own existing processes and structure. Now look at these trends on this slide. And on this slide, they're not in any certain order here. They're just sort of the main trends that we're seeing. All of these trends are very important to businesses today, and into business intelligence strategies within inside of organizations. But we all know access to data is one of the most important needs to help fuel the growth and direction of companies today. Companies are starting to take a mixture of historical and operational data together so they can get deeper analytics and trends information. This helps companies not make the same mistakes twice and make them more nimble and create a path for faster decisions. The data trends show that remote access to data and mobilization will continue to rise to the top of all trends for most of organizations that need deeper insights and just better and faster ways to get to their data for internal employees and external remote employees, which we all know has over the past few years has been on the rise and will continue with the hybrid and remote worker trends that are going on. Dashboards and automated reports can also and views can be created over operational data, so you can compare data elements to combat the fraud in some of those different use cases. Being able to insert automation when and where it's needed for delivery of reports or access to data to reduce the need for IT resources and enablement of business users. And that is key, enablement of business users there. To be able to access the data they need when and how they need it. And another big one that focuses on the topic today is replacement of the older technology. This would be around the use case like using Query 400 or doing any kind of special programming or RPG programs to be able to access the company data. It becomes inefficient, and you'll hear some of the different use cases and stuff around that and some of the compatibility problems and stuff like that. And another trend that I believe will always be on the top of this list is being able to give power users direct access via Microsoft Excel, to the data views that they need to do their jobs and make that decisions for the business, right? Excel is one of the huge business applications, and being able to point and click and access that data is key. And the last one we're seeing, it's okay to have multiple BI solutions inside of an organization. This is something we've been, working with our prospects and customers on, because some ERP systems have built in to them BI solutions, right? But what they can't do is extend it past their ERP solution, to other, databases that they might want to be able to trigger off of and stuff like that. So it's okay to have multiple solutions inside of there. And sometimes the solution that they're using might not have really good capabilities to access IBM DB2 data. And I'll show you today how easy that is with the SQL application, BI application, and how easy that is to view that information. Now let's move a little bit deeper into the topic of getting more out of your data. With how fast-paced businesses or how fast-paced the business world is today, companies really need to be able to turn on a dime, right? They need to be able to adjust quickly to changes. And the efforts that companies are putting towards their digital and data transformation efforts, companies need solutions that can help them move their company forward and take their data and make it insightful to users, right? And be able to tell easy data stories, right? With visual graphics. Sometimes it's just pure data they want to be able to see, but be able to manipulate that so they can make decisions easier and faster. Basically, you can divide your organization's data needs into these 4 columns. First one is the power of the data, right? Being able to create powerful views and prompts and conditional logic without having to write programs or make multiple passes over data. Having flexibility, so that the requests for change are processed faster, right? Business users don't always have to wait days or weeks. Some users want that data in Excel, right, to be able to manipulate in Excel and do some pretty graphs and charts there. Some want to look at it in a browser, so from a data element standpoint, and some of them want both. Being able to provide accuracy by providing a centralized store of definitions is key. That can be used by many, right? So they can be used by all different kinds of departments or users and stuff like that inside the organization. And this eliminates, the chance for human error in this process, right? Because you have that centralized, defined definitions already out there for everybody to be able to access. Most users are running the same reports over the same data and tables every day and multiple times a day. So being able to put that into that central repository is key. And finally, security. Even if you fully rely on the IBMI for the security setup, SQL BI will honor that. You can also use one of our other layers of security all the way down to the field and row level security functions. Now, when it comes to Query 400, for 30 plus years, many IBMI shops have defaulted to using Query 400 to access their data, fulfilling basic needs of generating simple reports from DB2 data. Again, in today's fast-paced world of the data transformation, more and more organizations are finding that Query 400 and custom programs can't keep up with their requirements around data reporting and analytics, because of some of the limitations that the application or programs they are using, like interface is not user friendly, incompatibility with Microsoft Excel, so we can get data to Excel in most cases, but it's not easy to get it there, right? It's kind of a feel. Compound queries are unscalable, and data integrity is potentially at risk. Now let's move into each one of these in just a little bit more detail, and then we'll also be covering some of this in the live demonstration as well, so you can sort of see some of the differences here. Okay, starting with the user interface. User interface is not really user friendly, right? Let's face it. The IBMI is a powerful business system, but green screens are not sometimes pretty to look at depending who you are, right? So depending on your background, if they're just sometimes not user friendly to everybody. There are more reasons, why you need to modernize your process. Another is, let's face it, the younger generation, right? They are entering into the business world today and they've never seen a green screen before, or don't even know what the IBMI system really does. I always look at this and I always say this, have you ever seen the fear and confusion in someone's eyes when they first see a green screen, right? Their minds scream, oh, geez, old system. Is this that DOS thing? So they make those comments about the application without really realizing how capable the IBMI really is for running the business, right? How strong it is and reliable it is, over some of the Windows systems and stuff like that. It just runs, right? Some people have been running them for years and years and years and never had any, downtime or anything like that. It's all been scheduled kind of stuff. But that younger generation or not, new hires are always likely to, they're going to be younger generation coming in, right? and will not have a lot of experience or have been taught, the green screen applications in their lives. So for orders for them to take advantage, of your some of those challenges inside of your organization, they will need an easy to use modern interface. So being able to provide them a way to quickly access the data without the need to know SQL query language or programming. One of the last reasons is the speed of business today. You snooze, you lose. This is a bigger meaning in business today than it ever has before. Keeping ahead of the competition and keeping up with current regulations and expanding into new and growing markets and more means your decision makers need information when they need it fast. They can't be delays inside of that process. Today, IT has plenty of demands and restraints put on them already. So being able to create a business strategy to give IT the tools to make users more self-sufficient on how and when they can access the data is very important to the success of a corporate BI strategy. The next thing to look at is how it works, or more importantly, how it doesn't work with Microsoft Excel. Over the years, Microsoft Excel has become a must-have application for business users who need to manipulate and analyze data, in a way that they're comfortable with. Getting data out of the IBM and into Excel using Query 400 and other methods by no means it's not impossible, right? But it does require multiple steps that too many organizations have come to accept over time as a necessary evil. And yes, you can use ACS to do this, but it does have some complexity to it, and some users will still run into issues trying to do so because of the process and knowledge that is needed to do this. In reality, this process is inefficient and time-consuming for IT and users, and it also can delay business users in getting the timely data they need to make informed and quick business decisions. Some business users will still try to take shortcuts by transposing or manually entering data into spreadsheets themselves. This is not only inefficient, this workaround also introduces the risk of human error and could compromise data integrity. The next limitation is around scalability. With Query 400, your compound queries might start to box you into a corner and become unscalable. Query 400 can only search a single partition at a time on a local database. That means someone in IT needs to create multiple queries to run them manually and report or to report on and distribute that set of data. Not only inefficient, this model is simply not scalable in today's business world. With Query 400's limitations of one query at a time, anytime someone needs a slightly different set of data, you need to be able to modify, you have to be able to modify and run a new query. Let's say, for example, someone in finance wants to make a trial balance and has a column of credits and debits, and they want to make it into two columns. With Query 400, it is very difficult to split that data in one pass due to its limitation on the query and conditional logic. Even things like converting a character field to a numeric one, converting to dates, conditional logic, concatenating, and other familiar and frequently used functions, each require their own step and their own query. This means that every time that you need to refresh your data, you need to run each individual query in the correct order to get the desired result. For a one-off data pull, it's not ideal. For a set of data that gets pulled regularly, it's simply unsustainable. Using a tool that provides more advanced BI functions in fewer steps is a huge design time and time saver. Plus, the tool can shield the users from the complexity of the query and provide faster results. And that's a key statement there, is shield the users from the complexity of the query. They don't need to know what that query SQL language looks like. We can provide that outside of that. Now, for the people that want to see that query, we can surely show them that process, but it can shield people from that complexity. And this is a benefit of modernizing, right? You get your data your organization needs in one step without wasting valuable time. And last of all is data integrity, is potentially at risk. Runtime prompts, which I'll be showing in the live demonstration here, how easily we can build those. But runtime prompts allow users to input variables and that they would like to query on without touching the underlying code or the need to understand the complexity. There are no runtime prompts in Query for Hundreds. So when the business user needs to change their data sets to analyze different results, it requires a modification or a separate query to be able to do so. So let's say accounting needs to search for certain customer account. Sometimes they do this dozens of times each day. With Query for 100, IT has two options, right? They can elevate the security privileges so that they can modify the query on their own, or manually go into the query, enter the exact count number, and rerun that query every time they need to refresh the data. Without runtime prompts, Query for 100 ultimately interferes with the organization's ability to get the business done efficiently, and also puts that burden back on usually IT or to be able to do those modifications. You have really no secure way for allowing your users to be self-sufficient, in some of those scenarios there. So different users or different departments can't run, existing views and then return, tailored results without writing that new query themselves, or again, asking IT or, someone in the business that has that capability to do that. We all know change can be challenging, right? So switching business intelligence tools shouldn't always mean losing all the work that you've put into writing queries over the years, right? So one of the things that we have, and a lot of people love this feature inside of there, is that we have an import functionality, right? So we can take all those queries and either individually import them or multiple options, where we can multiple select options to be able to import those in. So we have an import utility, which I'll be showing here, that's built into our application to be able to do that. And then after they're imported, you can use the SQL BI interface, the viewpoint interface, to be able to make those modifications. And again, I'll be showing that in the live demonstration here in just a few minutes here. There are two main methods that are on this slide here that we have for importing queries into the system. There's a green screen method, so you have more of a command-driven method. There's a couple steps to that, but very simple and easy command to be able to run. So if you like the green screen option. And then we also have a GUI method that I'll be showing today that you can run right from the viewpoint application and import those in. So it really just depends on where you like to be able to run those different kinds of queries or imports at, if you want to do it from the green screen or from the viewpoint application. All right, just a little bit about SQL itself. So planning, gathering, organizing, and analyzing, right? Those are key topics there. And with our SQL BI solution, we can help you bring the business together with the data and easily create data stories that the business and users need to be able to do their job, no matter what level of knowledge they are at with database or SQL. SQL is built with DB2 in mind, but it also allows you to work with other business business data that lives on your network as well, with any type 4 JDBC driver compatible database. With SQL BI, we use a 3-step methodology of collecting and discovering live data from all your organization's business systems, understanding and designing around the data that you are collecting for real-time access to business insights that the live data is telling. And then also we can mix in historical data into that as well. And this can all be done with data-centric views, and more importantly, graphical views as well if you need to. So put graphs and charts to show data stories to make it easier to consume the data. And when you want to be able to share and deploy to the business users, using web browser interfaces for zero application footprint, so nothing to install, just hitting a URL and accessing it. And depending on some of the security settings, we can deploy different options there. But deploying those via the browser, deploying dashboards, or even giving users that direct access to Microsoft or to the SQL views inside of Microsoft Excel. I want to state this again, SQL is built with DB2 in mind, right? So it's very easy for us to connect to DB2, but we also allow you to work with all those other business systems as well, or other databases that you might have outside of your ERP system, like Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, or like I said, any other type 4 JDBC driver compliant database. I think that's a big thing to remember because it's not always in one spot. There's a mixture of things. We have customers that create dashboards over DB2 data, a lot of DB2 data, and then they might have this one-off application running in SQL Server or something like that on the machine that they need to be able to access. So we can do all that process there. And it's something important to remember. I like this slide because there really is no reason to fear your data. A lot of users fear data. A lot of companies fear data, right? No matter what level of SQL knowledge you're at, even if you don't know what SQL is, you can still access your data and use it efficiently. Let the technology do the work for you. We can help you at every level, from that expert level to medium level, beginner level, to that end user that does not know SQL no SQL skills at all. With our easy to use interface, it allows you to get to that data easily and tell the story with the data without having to do coding or anything like that, or full understanding. You might have a little bit of understanding what SQL is, but you can use the functions of the application to be able to guide you through it, and really ease of use. And with SQL, you get more than just importing your queries, right? So it's not just importing queries. You also you get the flexibility and the options of deployment, to be able to push those views to the business users. We are always keeping the end result in mind at all times. So within the SQL BI solution, we offer a variety of ways to provide users the data they need and apply automation options if needed to streamline it for IT and the business users. On this slide here, it shows you, how you can use dashboards to share, via a desktop or a web interface for analyzing key business metrics. We can do pivot tables for looking at data and slicing and dicing it into all sorts of different ways. So if you need to work with the data more, we have ways to be able to do that. Drill analysis. We can apply drill analysis to views and dashboards to increase transparency to information that is used behind the scenes to create the data stories. So that's a really cool feature, is to be able to drill into something and get to the background data from a chart or graph. Charts and graphs for the visual representation of data and making deeper data telling stories and stuff like that, and making them easier to understand, and giving them one-click on-demand access via Microsoft Excel with the SQL Microsoft Excel plugins. So being able to do all that process there. All right, now I'm gonna get into some live demonstration here to sort of walk through a couple things here. Here's a look at the stages at import and using your pre-existing query for 100 queries and SQL statements in SQL BI. For the live demo, I'm going to start with importing an existing query, and then how a user can access that via a web browser using the SQL web interface. So how quick and easy that is to use. And then I'm going to walk through how you can easily modify that query and add prompting. And then I'm going to highlight some of the SQL web interface capabilities on how users can work with the data in the views at all different kinds of levels, right? So if they want to export it, if they want to do totals, if they want to be able to create just a simple graph and chart. I will also show how you can schedule queries to be emailed via automation. So we have a scheduling function in there, and how users can access queries directly from Microsoft Excel using the SQL Microsoft plugin. And if time permits, towards the end, I will show you how you can create queries from scratch as well. All right, let me get over to the live demonstration here. All right. And again, if there's any questions as I'm going through this as well, feel free to, like Ian said in the beginning, feel free to enter those into the chat window as well. We'll address those here in just a few minutes. But from a standpoint, the first thing here, a lot of customers want to be able to do is, how do I get my existing queries into the system, right? So one of the really cool features inside of the SQL BI solution is inside the Viewpoint application itself, we have an import function. This import function allows you to be able to go out to your libraries and grab those different queries that you created. And you can select a single query, or you can select multiple ones to be able to import at a single time. For today's purpose, I'm just going to do a single one here. But all I really have to do is be able to say, yep, I want to import that in. I want to import it into my Greg temp folder. And then I'm going to import that into the system. So that is now in there. Now that query is usable already. Just because I hit that button, it only took a few seconds to be able to hit that import button. That information is now accessible inside here. So if I hit my refresh button inside of the SQL web interface and say I'm a user and I logged in with my IBM credentials and I'm going there to grab my report, I can double click or right click and now get to that data inside of there. So that query that I just imported just took, like I said, a few seconds. I'm able to open it up from an end user standpoint in the web browser. So very quick and easy to be able to do that, from the application side. So very, I'll call it very streamlined, import capabilities. And I'll come back to this interface here in just a second here to go more in detail into some of the use cases around that. But now say let's, maybe that query is great because it gave some good detail inside of there, right? But it was too much detail. I need to be able to get more granular with information, right? I don't want to have separate queries for each of these. I just want one query that I could get all the information, or I can say selected maybe customers or orders or something like that, right? So now what I can do is I'm going to go into what we call the design mode. So I'm going to right click, and this is a privilege inside of a permission inside of here that allows me to use the SQL web or SQL Viewpoint to be able to modify the SQL. So again, going back to what level you're at, right? So if you want to be able to modify the SQL, you still have that capability inside of here. We just import it into here, and you can update it, modify it, do whatever you need here. We do have what we call this view builder option here, which is more of a wizard kind of a feel, where it walks you through step by step, or a tabular function. And then we have this files and fields option. This files and fields option is sort of like the intermediate to beginner. I love this view because it shows me the visual representation of the different data sources that I'm using inside of here, and the different tables that I'm connecting to. So you see here, I got some auto join functions that are coming in here. So I'm joining these tables together inside of this view here. So I can actually take this information, and by taking this information, and building, this was one's built already because it had all the information in there. Now I can name these things how I want to, or I can take things that might not be in this report and drag them down here. So this is building my output by dropping that information down there. So it's an easy drag and drop interface with visual representation in here, and you can order these in different ways. Inside of here, you can do, create variables inside of here. From that standpoint, I can create prompts and things inside of here. Now for this prompt here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the customer number. I want to build a customer number prompt, and I'm going to build a prompt for customer number. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to push, and we can do this through the expression editor, or I'm just going to quickly do it this way with doing a little piece here. So I'm going to say basically it's going to prompt on customer number, and it's going to give that a customer number. Now, if I wanted to have a customer number list inside of there, and have it from a drop down or a customer name list, we could do that as well. So I'll show you an example a little bit later on if we have time on some of those different prompting options that we can do. Now for that change here, pretty quick little change, and I'm going to hit the save button here, and that save button is just going to push that back out for me here. And then from that standpoint, I am going to pop open my browser again, and you're going to see here, when I double click on this now, it's actually going to prompt me for something. So instead of just giving me all that data back at one time, this is actually going to pull a prompt open. So now I can come in here and say, I just want customer number 100, 600, all their orders, right? So that prompt is giving me that information now. Now I could go, geez, now I don't want that. So instead of running a different query, I can use this same query and just hit the reprompt and say, you know what, I want 100, 1200 or 100, 112. Oop, my mouse, sorry about that. And prompt on that information and update that information. So that's a really nice feature inside of there to be able to do those reprompts. And that could be a prompt in there. Mine's a simple prompt, right? Like I said, it could be a drop-down list. It could be, hey, enter the order number in, enter the customer number in, customer name in. Could be have a date range provided inside of there. So you can do multiple prompts inside of there, depending on how granular you want to get with that information inside the application itself. Now, now inside of the interface, right? So now when users open that up and, through this is using the SQL web interface here. Now, when users open this up and are accessing, there's different things that they can do with it, right? They can just, do the reprompting, see the visualization of the data. They can see that information, how it was provided to them, but they might want to do other things, right? They might want to do subtotals. They might want to be able to download this and save the results. You can save these results as, and export them to Excel from here if you want to. So if I want to export that to Excel, it's a single button push to export it to Excel. So very easy, or a PDF or a text file or whatever you need to be able to do. Print it, email the results to someone if they need to, and also manipulate the data inside of the interface itself, right? So they can look at this information here. And create visuals around the data, I should say, right? To be able to say, hey, I want to be able to create a chart. Oop, and I have to be able to create need some data for that. So I'm going to take this information here and say, hey, I want to create a data chart out of that because I'm doing a presentation to the executives. I need to create a chart for these for this information, and then I can create that chart and say, you know what, I'm going to create a line chart because I need to be able to see that, right? To be able to see some of those ups and downs from the visual representation of that. So it all depends on what you want the data story to be, right? In some cases, a pie chart might be better, right? In this case, a pie chart would probably be a bad choice, because if you look at a pie chart with a lot of data elements, you're going to get a lot of different feel in there, right? They're going to have too many options, right? But it's sort of, so we give you a whole bunch of different options inside of there. And I have some best practice guidance too. So when to use what kind of chart and graph inside here, but you have all the different kinds of options in here. Sometimes it's just a bar chart makes more sense, right? Because they want to be able to see some of those visual representations. We have a lot of customers that do this for executive views and stuff like that, is be able to give them that information or put them into their presentations to be able to get to the data and then do these nice visualizations. All right, so I'm going to go back here, and then one of the other things I want to show here, so this is like I said, from the design standpoint, going back to the Viewpoint Designer, this allows you to be able to do those designs and do that stuff. Now you can display those results right from here too. So when you're testing them and going through there, you can hit the display and pop open the display results right in the screen here. So you do have that capability, from this application, from the Viewpoint application itself. Now, if I wanted to set that up for automation, right? So maybe I got users that go there and they go and get that data, and because they want to be able to do different things with it, they can do that right from from the web browser with SQL web interface. Now, maybe I got some users like executives or certain departments that I want to be able to, email it on a daily basis, or schedule that out, right? So we do have the capability to say, you know what, in this case, I have a prompt in here, right? So I want to be able to prompt and say, send this information to a certain email address, or it could be a group email address or whatever, right? And send it as an Excel file, but I want to schedule that inside the system, right? So we can schedule using two different things, right? So if you have our robot schedule product, you can use, it's automatically defaults to the robot schedule. Or if you're using the IBM i Job Scheduler, you can use the IBM i Job Scheduler to do that as well. So you can do both of those different options there to be able to do that schedule. So you can do some, some automation capabilities there. Now with automation, there's other things you can do besides just scheduling, right? There might be multiple things you need to do, or hey, I want to be able to run maybe there's a daily, I'll call it, there's a scripting functionality inside of SQL that allows you to run multiple IBM commands and SQL commands inside of a script to and then set those up for automation. So maybe there's 5 reports that need to be sent out or something like that. You could have one script that is set up for automation to be able to do multiple things inside of there. So you do have those capabilities from an application standpoint. And then from the Excel function, right? So Excel is very, very powerful tool. Getting data to Excel and creating nice visual graphics inside of Excel, that's always an option, right? We do have dashboarding capability built into Microsoft or into SQL. It's the SQL BI as well. But you can actually import data using the Viewpoint plugin here. Or if I have new data that I want to be able to do, say add a new view to this, I can hit the Add View button. And I'm going to browse out there, and my prompt should be there. For my sales one, I'm going to use that same one. And this is, again, this has that prompt in there. So I can say, hey, I want to grab the data for that customer number and then bring it into the system. So very easy to be able to pull in that information and bring it into Excel right from the Excel plugin. So it's just a one-step process there to be able to do that. So there's not too many things that you have to do there to be able to bring that in. And again, then you can manipulate this from that standpoint. You can save this to your desktop too. So if it's something that you run every single day, you don't want to have to go add the view every single time. You can save this and then open it up and have it refresh it every single day as well. So you can have those different things, or have multiple tabs that have different views on them. That's very common to be able to have, maybe certain customers or certain kinds of reports or data elements that you need. You can create different tabs and have those open there from that standpoint. Whoop, and I'm clicking on things here. Sorry about that. All right, there's a lot of great information I could show and go through, from the access standpoint and creating different views inside of Viewpoint or over data and stuff like that. But I think what I'm going to do now is just open it up for Ian, if you could open it up for any questions that might be out there.
Sure, you can send in questions using the chat function. That's the easiest, and send it now, and we'll address any questions you have. There are a couple here, Greg, if you are ready. This one is, we have created our own SQL queries over the years outside of Query 400. Can this be imported to SQL BI solution as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, it probably came in before I was talking about that, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, so SQL queries can be copied into the system if or imported in using that import function that I was showing. But retaining that information is huge, right? It gives you a starting point. Even if you need to modify it, we give you an easy to use interface to be able to modify that. But the answer is yes to that.
All right. Again, any questions? Use the chat and send them in now. There are questions about the recording and handout. Yes, this session is being recorded, and that will be available on the Common Learning Management System probably first thing in the morning, as well as the PDF version of the handout of the slides. Everybody will get an email once it's available. This next question is the Excel add-in something that comes with the solution, or is it an extra cost?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, there's no extra cost to that Excel plugin. When you purchase SQL, you do get that plugin. It is an option during the install if you want someone to have that or not. Not every user usually needs that function, but it is a function that you can choose to install. No extra cost.
All right. Is it mandatory to create scripts for automation capabilities?
It is not mandatory. It just sometimes streamlines that process. If you want to run individual scheduling tasks, or if you want one task that is just scheduled in there to be able to launch those different ones off. So it's more of a preference on if you want to be able to use a script or not.
All right, folks, last chance for any final questions. Is the SQL web interface an extra cost for deploying to users?
Yeah, that's a that's a question that we can bring to the sales reps as well. But just depending on, it does get installed with every version of SQL, right? But there might be a license codes that needed, and it depends on the package you purchased from us as well. So if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us, and we can look at your account and see if that is part of the package that you purchased. But it's a very low, if you do have to purchase it, it's not that big of a purchase.
All right, any last questions while people are thinking of their last questions? I will say again that the handout from today and the replay will be available on a Commons Learning Management System. You can always get the Commons Learning Management System from going to common.org, and then there's at the top nav bar, there are links to it. No final questions. Why don't we go ahead and end a couple minutes early? Greg, thanks you for a great presentation.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
All right, everybody have a good day.